Professor Freilich, while that may be the case, and we understand that President Trump has said that he would like to have a say in who follows the supreme leader, but some analysts also argue that that scenario could be, unrealistic, noting that this parallel that has been drawn between Venezuela and Iran, it's deeply flawed because Iran is a more deeply entrenched system, and with that system in place and in the middle of this expanding war. Now, how plausible do you think is any externally driven political change in Iran's political landscape?
Well, I mean, I share your doubts or skepticism. Regime change is never easy. And you're absolutely right. This isn't Venezuela. This is a regime which is still very deeply embedded or supported by 20% of its public. And the system is deeply embedded. It's going to be very, very, very difficult to overthrow it. And I'm not sure that that objective will succeed. But that isn't the only objective in the war. There are other objectives, which is further downgrading, maybe completing the destruction of the nuclear program, severely downgrading the missile program, severely weakening the links between Iran and its regional proxies, which is what it's used for the destabilization efforts. So it would be an outstanding success if the regime could be brought down, but it could also be a significant success even if that objective isn't achieved.
And that being said, so what, according to you, would be the end goal for Israel at this point? Is it the regime change? Is it obliterating everything? And if it does happen, and of course, we'll have to wait and see when the regime changes and who's the next leader. But will we see another situation like Iraq or Libya? Consider the fact, and what role do you think Israel will be playing after their goals have been achieved?
Ideally, Israel would like to see regime change, but I don't think anyone is counting 100% on that happening. And so if the other objectives are achieved, then that will be a significant success for Israel. Think where Israel was just 2.5 years ago on October 7th, the first time that Israeli territory had ever been invaded and conquered. And I mean, Israel's a tiny country. It's at the center of the country, just north of Tel Aviv. Israel is 8.7 miles wide. And in the north, it's 5 miles wide, and all the way at the bottom, for our viewers who can picture what Israel looks like, there's a V-shaped part of the southern part of the country, and at the bottom of the V, Israel is a few hundred yards wide. Hamas succeeded in surprising Israel and in capturing some of Israeli territory. They actually got halfway to one of Israel's major cities, Beersheba, and had the war. Well, Hezbollah joined in the war, and had Iran joined at the time, Israel might have really been in existential danger. And now, 2.5 years later, Iran is in the process, I believe, of being defeated, and the axis of resistance has been defeated. So it has been a very difficult and painful 2.5 years for everyone. There's no doubt about that. But the outcome has been a very, very successful war, certainly on the military level. Israel has taken a hit in terms of its international standing. I hope that that will improve once this war is over. It will, I believe, create the opening for some progress in other areas in the region.
Oh, we hear you, Professor Freilich, and while we understand that, as you've mentioned, regime change might not be the ultimate end goal, but it is, of course, part of the objectives that have been laid out. And if that happens, what comes next? Because we know that taking out the regime is one thing, but ensuring that stability still prevails is a completely another one. And based on the trajectory that we're on with the war, there are very many doubts looming about the instability, the fresh instability which would be injected in Iran and how it would be contained. Because we all understand that this war also has a internal political domestic dimension here, because Netanyahu, of course, is also facing scrutiny from, the internal party lines about allowing Hamas to, carry out the October 7 attack. And do you think with the elections also, planned in the year ahead. Do you think that has also affected the political calculus when we come to the war in Iran here?
But first of all, you're asking two separate questions, really. First of all, in terms of the stability, yes, there is a danger of instability. You know how wars start. You never know exactly how they will end. You can try and plan for them in the best way you can, but you don't control the way everything happens. It's not as if we're in a stable situation and the war is now creating the instability. We've been in a very unstable situation for the last few decades since the Islamic Republic was founded. And the Islamic Republic, in its relationship with Hezbollah, which it established, led to a number of major conflicts and wars between Israel and Hezbollah, and supported Hamas in a number of rounds leading up to a major war. And of course, the Islamic Republic has been in a state of conflict, or at least tension, with all of its neighbors for decades as well. And now we see what does it do when it's attacked? It doesn't just respond, which would be understandable, against those that attacked it, the United States and Israel. It has already attacked every Gulf state, including even Oman, which had been mediating between them and the United States just a little over a week ago. Right. So this isn't creating stability, it's hopefully eliminating future stability. Now, you're also asking correctly, what are the domestic political ramifications of this in Israel? Well, Mr. Netanyahu is a prime minister in a democratic country, and politics are part of every decision that every leader makes. And Mr. Netanyahu, if you look at the polls ever since October 7th, it consistently appears unable to form a coalition after the coming elections. I mean, if the polls are at all accurate, then he cannot form a coalition. And I have little doubt that he is hoping that this may also be a last attempt to preserve his political career. But that doesn't change the fact that there are extraordinarily good strategic reasons for doing it. Those are the reasons. The politics are incidental to it.
Right. Of course, as you mentioned, of course, we have comments coming in from even Erdogan was saying that it might spill into a bigger, wider war. We'll have to wait and see where this goes. But thank you so much for joining on the broadcast and giving your insights into this. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.